Tēnei te mihi kia tātou, kia koe te Manawhenua, kia koe tai ki kautanga kaumai, e tēnei tauni e rā Matamata-Piako. So reira, e te rata tira Gary, nā hei tūpana. We have policies on government, Tahoe, officer, body, and officer. And Joe Taylor, there any further policy? It's not something in the policy we received, so where is the end of June, all in favor say aye. Contrary carried. Are there any leave of absence? If not, any matters? It's not that, we have one here, which is that the 2-year 2024 program. The expression of interest. Expression of interest at this meeting is a major item not on the agenda, pursuant to section 6A 7A, 46A 7B, and 46A 7B2 of the Local Government Official Information and Meeting Act 1987 to enable approval in a timely manner due to deadline of 15 signatures. 3. So that item will be added to number 4. Any questions around that? I'll move it. Moved by our Mayor, second by Canberra Seconder, Gary. All those in favour say aye. Contrary carried. Are there any items to be added to? No. Thank you. We are to our next item. Yes. Which is item 5. Oh, in the declaration of interest, really vacancy that might have a no. And we have our previous meeting. Any matters and rising from those minutes. And minutes would have come with your package. Just no, someone move the minutes be received, please. Present at our last meeting. Leo, seconder, another seconder, please. Carried. All those in favour say aye. Contrary carried. Thank you. And we'll go to item 7.1. And that's going to be led by Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. And Captain Barton.
Thank you, forum members. So today I'm just here to give you an update on our freedom camping bylaw, which was recently adopted by council just at the end of November. It hasn't come into force yet. It will be coming into force on the 20th of December this year. So we're currently in the process of getting all of our signs printed and made and installed ready for the operational date. So you'll remember earlier this year we came along and did some nice early engagement with all of Te Manawhenua forum members, and we sent out various surveys and had feedback from members and iwi, particularly over those sites of cultural significance, those ones that we really needed to protect under this bylaw. And all of that feedback was put into place for that draft bylaw, and it has all stayed in place for the final bylaw as well. Following that, we conducted site assessments over all of our popular council areas, and we proposed to restrict or prohibit a number of sites based on this assessment as well as iwi feedback. So council back in August adopted a draft, the main points of the bylaw which have already come to you, but just as a quick reminder, all of the freedom campers must be self-contained, so you must have your own London toilet was basically the last change there. And everyone can stay a maximum of 4 nights in one location throughout the district. This is on council land. And after that 4 nights, you must move at least 500 metres away. And the reasoning for that is so that you didn't have, say, your 11 parks at your Wairere Falls, for example, and then move along to a different park. You had to move to a different area to try and prevent any long-term impacts on particular areas. So we had a large list of, well, not too large list of prohibited areas, which included all of our cemeteries. And there was roughly 18 areas across the district that we said actually these are not suitable for freedom camping. A number of those because of iwi considerations and a number from a health and safety point of view. We have 10 restricted areas throughout the district, and this was following those same rules but restricting the number of vehicles that could be there. So some had a maximum of 2 vehicles, others like Wairere Falls had a maximum of, I think it was 11. And throughout the consultation, so we opened up for wider consultation from the whole community. We received 74 submissions, but we also held a number of open days where staff went along and attended and spoke to many people and explained the rules of this bylaw. Out of those submissions, council had a hearing. They considered all of those submissions. They deliberated on all of them, and some minor amendments did come out of these submissions, which are attached to your agenda in a track changes version, so you can see them. None of them affected any of those areas that iwi had specifically said were of cultural significance. The enforcement of this bylaw is going to be the same way that council enforces the majority of our bylaws, acting on a complaints basis. So we're not going out looking for people that are causing any issues. If there are complaints made, council will go out and deal with it with an educational point of view first, followed by enforcement if needed. And lastly, this bylaw will need to be reviewed at least in 5 years' time, if not beforehand, if there's other issues that pop up. And after that, it would be every 10 years or again earlier if issues pop up. So happy to take any questions on that.
Sandra, are there any questions of Sandra?
I might just let's check this.
Good.
Yeah, I think I'd like to acknowledge input into this. I think it's really important to acknowledge wahi tapu in this case. Very, very important. And with your engagement with staff, I think it's been I hope it's been a worthwhile exercise where participation has been valued, very much so, and a great example of how we can work together for outcomes that do meet everyone's needs, basically, and respect for the land. So yeah, it's really good piece of work, and I think staff also got some funding to help put signs up as well. So in places like the Matamata-Piako Reserve, I think it's an important one, especially the respect of that piece of land. That's the only way I can describe it. So, yeah. Pretty good.
Sorry, Sandra, how many across the district?
I believe there was 18 prohibited areas and 10 restricted. And all of the feedback that I got from Manawhenua Forum members was all incorporated in those prohibited areas.
It also means they can park other places, and where we put the restrictions, I think it was quite noticeable in the submissions that people thought we were only limiting to the areas where we had restrictions where they could park. But I think we've gradually built that understanding that there are other council land that they are able to park on, but like we've added in like can't park at cemeteries or outside in the immediately outside and things like that. So there's a little bit of wahitapu there perhaps too, if that's appropriate. So I'm happy to move it if there's
Thank you. These are no questions. Thank you. Leo, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
And 7.2 is the long-term plan. And 9. Here.
I'm going to be Niall today. I just wanted to, I'll take the report as read. Just of note, the audit date's been pushed out by a week, so we're likely to delay our engagement by 1 week. We've just been working with them on that date. As many of you will be aware, huge uncertainty around the 3 waters reforms, and maybe aware of choosing to the 31 plan. The state is choosing to about ways to become lined up, and still required to align ourselves with legislative requirements. So, most of the so we'll just keep watching brief on that, but obviously this will be a government settling in when speaking to what we're speaking only around the rules that may change. So like we've taken any feedback questions on
so we've put a lot of work into the wastewater comprehensive consent, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be wanting to progress some of those works pretty soon, particularly I know Matamata's on the list because of the growth pressure there is to and you're wanting to upgrade to accommodate growth. So I'm assuming that's all in there, that's in the plan, that's actually in the LTK. How does the stormwater works fit in? Because we're just starting off on that comprehensive consent now, but I anticipate that within 3 years you're going to want to have some, there must be at least like covering off some of the consultants that we have reviewed and conduct within the words. And I'm assuming you probably will within the words, filling out the consent application is beyond what May next year or something like that. I think it is. Do you get any information about that?
So I would probably suggest is that we can note down that question and perhaps ask our district plan team around this afternoon, ask them on that consenting aspect. They'll have much more of that information around the consent.
Well, the students in here, because the hygiene, it's nothing for data.
Yeah.
I think the other driver too isn't just about growth, it's also about resource consent expiring. So we obviously there's a new consent and it will meet new standards. So not only is it catering for growth, it's actually catering for higher standards discharge. So that's and that's key anyway with the growth. There is talk of whether it's what happens going forward, and whether stormwater is actually excluded from the 3 waters because it's complex of its complexity with different drainage schemes and whatnot. So not too sure where that's going at this stage, but there is some conversations at a high level. But that's where, like you said, with the planning, we sort of felt that we needed to keep going. That's why we didn't just stop in 2 years. We decided, well, we need to have a strategy going forward because of the uncertainty and at the end of the day, the community needs to know that there's a plan going forward. It doesn't just stop in 2026 if there's going to be a new entity. That was sort of the stance that I think collectively as a council we took to what happens with audit. Well, that's the next question now. Audit with insurance, even those things.
We are excited about the water quality gains that are going to be made, and we feel that's a really good investment in the future for the community, is actually do it right, you know, and put that resource and effort into getting that done right. So we're quite committed to seeing that the recommendations have come out and that that resource is fully put in place to get those outcomes as well. So really do acknowledge Matamata-Piako for being from the process that they've gone through. It's been actually in the refreshing consultation process. It's really felt included and listened to and feel that there's a good outcome.
Through the chair, I can also just note that in the consultation document, which we're discussing shortly, we have noted must-do projects as being Matamata wastewater treatment plant, the Morrinsville CBD stormwater upgrades, and the Morrinsville wastewater treatment plant upgrade as well. So, and also there's Waitara water as well. So there's definitely emphasis in that in our long-term plan is to do projects, we need to do projects.
Just going through the resource. They're all really separated. I don't share. Still.
That's right. Yeah, it's always been the case, but it's yes, it's how we address stormwater and construction. You know, it's never been allowed into the wastewater zone from I think the other thing to add too is that Matamata-Piako took quite a little stance by doing the 3 consents for Morrinsville and Tiaha in this process, given that Matamata's was first and the other 2 were rolling on in the next couple of years. But I think it made sense to capture because it all flows into the same catchment. Okay.
Any further comment? No, someone move this report to receive, please. Gary, second. Second. Nicholas. Yes, carried in by and all those in favour say aye. Contrary carried. 7.3, which is the stormwater long-term plan, sorry, performance measures. So you again.
Thank you, Fiona. So for this item, obviously 2 aspects. The first one is around performance measure and the second one is around the body decision-making aspect of the plan. Council has asked staff to seek Manawhenua direction around which measure would deem appropriate in a long-term plan. So the current measure that we have around the levels of service that council will involve Manawhenua with Manawhenua status in the decision-making process. And the performance measure is the percentage of Manawhenua board members who complete the survey are satisfied or very satisfied that Manawhenua status are recognised and have meaningful involvement in decision-making. The target of 75% or more satisfied and very satisfied. And there are
Sorry, only because
would you like me to repeat that? Okay. So we're seeking Te Manawhenua advice on the performance measure that they would like council to consider to include in a long-term plan. So currently the measure there's a levels of service, which is that council will involve tangata whenua with Manawhenua status in the decision-making process. And the current performance measure is the percentage of Te Manawhenua forum members who complete the survey that are satisfied or very satisfied that tangata whenua with Manawhenua status are recognised and have meaningful involvement in decision-making. And the target for that is 75% of members who are satisfied more satisfied or very satisfied. Now you'll see in the report that there is some commentary around some challenges in terms of getting the numbers from Te Manawhenua feedback in terms of the survey. So we've provided some examples from some other councils around what the measure includes. And we're seeking Te Manawhenua feedback as to whether they would like to change that measure to look at how many lessons held from Te Manawhenua per year. So we're seeking some feedback as to Te Manawhenua assessment.
Any discussion?
I wonder if I might ask, how they're listed self-weight cuts on. I don't know.
Don't have anything. I don't know. I could check into it for you.
Could it be just a wider survey? Not just a survey of us.
So more of like every organisations as a whole.
Yeah. Or just even people like, if we share the survey on our Mano pages and stuff. So it's just getting a better, because I mean, like we're well engaged with the whole process, but our people aren't so much. Yeah. So it would be good to, and they're not people who will, just want to get a lot of our whānau to be engaged or to vote, and so they, I would imagine it's a sounding, I don't know. Which would be a view here that the council think there's much to do. But why don't we
Satisfactions for Te Ao Māori is just 5 or 6. Just a small. That's why I'm going to be soon. Question changing the issue. If you think about how long that committee is supported. To be able to respond to that.
Make further comments?
I guess we just need some guidance, because I think to be able to have, obviously what's there doesn't reflect from the scope of the Manawhenua forum, we weren't getting that response. We've increased the number of meetings per year to try and I guess the thing is it's one thing to engage with everybody, but it's another to bring a group of people together collectively. And I think the purpose of this from a council operation perspective is, and I appreciate there's only a handful around the table, but it's sort of a guide for us to know what is this forum we're having. Because if you're not, this sort of ties in with the forum members, and if you're not satisfied here, it'll certainly not be satisfied out there. So I guess it's just trying to bridge, build a bridge here to improve satisfaction. And I guess is it a case of reflection of what's happened in the last couple of years, with what councils have been doing in the last couple of years, is that improving in a way that helps build satisfaction? Would be my question. Because in the end, it's about relationships, right? Meaningful relationships. So this is the starting point, and then it's obviously having our relationships with each group. So
at the other end of the spectrum is how well they're communicating to those guys.
Yeah.
So just this, that's why I was talking about this morning, the engagement, this sort of stuff. How well do we communicate that outcome? Whakakai now, it's been a little while since we've made progress, visible progress in whakakai policy. So how do we communicate?
The story process takes a long time.
So how do you communicate?
Because I think reflecting back in the past, as there were only 4 meetings a year, and the Manawhenua Forum were getting stuff that had already been passed. Whereas now I think we are moving to a more in front role.
That's probably a performance measure in itself, like how we can see every project and see where Manawhenua have come in.
Yeah.
You know, what along a timeline there. That's probably a really good way to kind of see whether we're shifting.
What you want to fish out is to get an understanding of how you feel about it, that you feel you are being brought in, you know, like that you are included, it is inclusive, and there is the opportunity. That's at the right time. Yeah, at the right time. Not as coming behind. Yes. Correct.
So there, am I hearing that there's an appetite to continue with the survey, but perhaps we can have a review of those questions as well, just to reflect some of those things there?
Yep. A review of the questions, widen the scope and widen the net. That would be mine.
Same council and take on the EV aspirations, because I think that would be an awesome measure.
Yeah.
You know, they're actually laid out. How is council actually implementing those, or are we seeing those implemented in the work that's being brought to us? You know, just like everyone's time poor. You know, we don't all have time to get like intimately involved in everything that council does, but it's really useful to hear what's going on, and then it would be quite good to be able to put those back, tie those back to those EV aspirations, and just see how well are those being reflected and what's actually happening, and have that as part of how you base the, base the questions. I think everybody, you know, at the table would have been disappointed that the aspirations weren't taken on. And I do think that's a missed opportunity to have an ideal aspirations against which to measure performance. So, yeah, don't know if you can do that without being adopted by council, but having us actually review how well we think some of those are being implemented. It'll take longer, and I mean, I don't think I even did I didn't realise it was something to P measure for the make sure to do in the future, but and do alternates through those, or is it just the main person? But
It's sent out to everyone that's involved in it.
I think for me, it's some of the stuff had come local. For me, it's in my backyard, and I think council in the part of my backyard. And I thought one of it, along with State Highway 29, Kaporo Park to Park Mon. Should do being closing down. Where's that? Now, without me steering it, without helping, without my eyes, they have no idea. So we had a meeting the other week with Marae, and it's subject to what's going on. The council, I keep telling them, we can build a partnership with council. Which both ways. So for me, the learning thing is David being here, but things that happen here, that the government what happened? I'm in the country, I'm not in the town. I look what you want to think myself, yeah. Have a voice at the table, they're on the rise, they're helping me know, we're all different. I don't know anyone else's backyard. That's what I have on. I've got a big temple, and all we need to do is actually go publish, tell Māori all day, every day. I go to my
So thank you for that feedback. We've noted that down. The other aspect was whether there was any feedback on the Māori involvement in decision-making section for inclusion in the council's long-term plan. That was provided in an attachment to the report. Was there any feedback on that, or were people generally feeling okay with what's proposed?
I don't think I'm feeling okay with what's proposed. I feel like it's just minimal, like absolute bare minimum. We have a Manawhenua forum and delivery settlements. So I don't think we'll ever be satisfied with that.
Comments?
I guess it's interesting just looking at what Otorohanga District Council has for there is the iwi leaders rate their relationship with council as good or better. I guess it's a bit hard to even say that it's good or better, it's improving, I would hope. But this has to be included in it's a performance measure that we put on our long-term plan, so we need to have something to put forward. So you got enough guidance?
I think so, yes. Yeah. And I'll work with Tuatahi and Sandra as well, so we can finesse that.
Because that measure does relate to the forum specifically.
Yeah. And for us, I think, even though I'm like, yes, let's widen the net for feedback, I mean, it does come down to us as well, like being committed to sharing that information and pushing it and really promoting really getting feedback. Can be a mission, as you know. Yeah.
Someone with the report we received. Ready, Jonga, second. Doing orders and papers, our contrary carry. Thank you, and I think you've got this 8.1. Just an update.
7.4.
Oh, no.
It wouldn't be making that here. Yeah. You're tasting her out, Karen. You're talking on that,
Carry on.
So the next item is to alert the forum to the draft consultation document for the long-term plan, which is currently being drafted. So we provided there an outline of what's proposed for inclusion, and this will be going to council on the 13th of December as well, with obviously more included as part of the consultation document. So we're just inviting any feedback that the forum might have around the current proposed topics for community consultation. So you'll see them broadly outlined there. And also some of them are obviously informed, as we discussed earlier with the water areas. So we've got resource recovery centres, roading, Te Aroha Spa, Te Aroha Library, Matamata Domain Playground, Matamata Stadium, Matamata Wastewater Treatment Plant, public toilets at Matamata Domain and Davies Park, Morrinsville CBD stormwater upgrades, Morrinsville wastewater treatment plant upgrade, digital enablement, and Waitoa water as well. So just seeking any feedback from the forum on those topics. We are on item 7.1, 7.4, sorry.
Oh, you're doing a good professional mom.
Yeah, the CBD stormwater upgrades and the wastewater treatment plant upgrade.
And toilets at Davies Park. Oh, start moving. Really nice. Every take the power bill. It's a shall I say that this long-term plan is based on must-dos and should-dos, a few should-dos, and the nice-to-dos. Look at our compliance is our must-do, and that's hence the waters are a significant part of our long-term plan.
Yeah, and it's interesting if you look at stuff that's been the Waikato Times with Hamilton City Council, stuff like that, and you see what they're basically throwing a whole lot of stuff out and still looking at 25%. Right, so yeah, there's a lot of use that's thrown by manufacturers, but we're hopefully getting in there with the
Are you familiar with the Waitoa water? Like me again. So what has happened there is a couple of years ago, Ontario contacted us. So they've been supplying water to the Waitoa village for quite a number of years because of the coal dust from years ago, from the coal from the plant. So that's where they took on providing water to the village. Many of the people have roof water anyway. And of course now it's less so because obviously coal is big in the past, so there isn't the environmental impact that's occurring. Under the new regulations of Te Mata-Arawai with the regulator, you supply water to more than 2 houses, you're deemed to be a water supplier. And in Frontier's case, they decided that they did not wish to be a supplier anymore. The water is fully compliant, obviously. It's the reticulation that's not. It's described possibly being algae and hence perspective. It's not up to capacity for firefighting or anything. So they are withdrawing from that. So council becomes by default the supplier. The community do have the option though to go it alone and just stick with roof water, or ask council to provide them with water. There is a huge cost involved with that, and they will be rated like everybody else for that water, and will potentially be a people cost as well as the yearly targeted rate that everybody pays at the census.
What's the general feeling there then?
It's quite mixed. They were going alone there for a while, and then they changed. Sarah Jane's actually been going to the meetings as well, being in the telephone ward. But then they decided, well, no, they should get water. But of course, then the challenge is the sewage system as well, because it's not centre. So yeah, it's not a wealthy community, and I think like it's going to be up there. We initially thought we brought the entity in, one of the guys from the National Transition Unit, just so they were aware. And of course, it all changed with portable water, and now it's changing again. So yeah, we're in a bit of a. That's why it's just in this as an inform, not consult, because potentially we would take quite like two.
What's the trigger for that community in terms of X people saying, hey, we'll do it alone, and X people saying, we want help, and is there a, I don't know, is there a...
For us to provide a reticulated scheme that's everybody.
You have to rate everybody. Yeah. Hence my question, I suppose, is how many people are going to take to trigger that.
So you understand the quandary that we face.
They all have to decide one or the other. Okay.
So, yeah, so that's why my question is how many people trigger that, 10% of them going, oh, well, we don't have enough water in the tanks, we don't have water, we rely on the things that it's, but we need water. So, yeah.
Are there many Māori whānau in that community? Māori whānau?
Yeah. But both of them are on a tank system with a trickle feed, so I assume it will know. Hence, that's been included in that sort of high level space because we are. I just thought it'd be good to provide you some. Obviously, with morals of CBD, there had been some flooding, and things were done which has certainly helped alleviate the situation. But and
The two businesses in particular, like Cape Spice, House Travel and Buco Insurance, kind of ironically.
Right on that.
So that both those businesses were getting significant flooding. And we had it just started private Capes, 31 couple of months ago. And we were saying that, yeah, it's a lot better, but significant rainfall events, which you see, but that being that phase B and Z, got that kind of corner in there. And what's opposite the B? What's opposite B and Z?
Travel.
No, sorry.
ANZ.
Was it A?
ANZ.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, there you go. Okay, you've got that. Don't think I want to go to the next.
Been left on that.
But yeah, there's so yeah, they're nearly all those areas.
Yeah, is that jumping ahead of the stormwater comprehensive consent, or is it just sort of, yeah, those works will be done ahead of time?
They're in the.
They kind of get to be, it's a bit case, I think those businesses, I'm going to say 3 times. And then quite substantial. So Vic has put a storm water door. Their premises, and I know with council weeks, we did put cameras down on drains, make sure that no blockages, etc. But yeah, that falls not a help.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll put this forward as to council, and obviously we've got another meeting in the new year with Te Manawhenua Forum, so we're able to provide that further to you then.
Karen, someone move? The call table. Karen, seconder. Rangi, do you want that? No, Rangi. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Plan update. Is it Nathan?
Yep.
Morena, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Sweet. Ko Nathan Sutherland, Taka Ingoa. For those who don't know me, I'm the team leader of RMA policy here at Matamata-Piako District Council. I'm going to give you, normally you see Kamesh here, but I'm going to be in the hot seat today, giving you a district plan and RMA issues update. I think most of you will know a lot of the district plan updates that are going on, so I won't rehash them completely, but I'll just give you sort of an update of things that have happened since the last Te Manawhenua Forum. So first up is the Papakainga Plan Change 54. So that is a proposal to enable Papakainga within the district. It involves the creation of multi-purpose zones, and within those multi-purpose zones is two precincts. Precinct 1, or Papakainga Tahi, is around existing marae, and that will enable dwelling development at a greater intensity than is currently allowed for in the rural zone. And then Papakainga Rua recognises existing Papakainga development, and that is centred around Rukumoana and the sort of Waharoa, the Gillett and Kutia roads sort of areas there. So in terms of where we're at with that, so it was notified late last year and then re-notified for further submissions in earlier in this year. We were working through some of the submissions with the submitters just to try and iron out some issues. And we have a hearing scheduled for late April. We also have provisionally 2 commissioners engaged, but that has to be, I guess, formally endorsed by the council on the 13th of this month. Cool. Any questions about that?
Nathan, can you give me a bit of an outline of what happens next after the step through processes?
So in terms of the hearing, the hearing is scheduled for late April, and so if you've made a submission on that, you'll be invited to present or talk to your submission at that hearing, and then the commissioners will make a decision regarding the proposed provisions. They may accept them as they're written, they may amend them slightly, they may reject them. And then so a decision will come out of that hearing in April, and then it'll be incorporated. Whatever comes out of that will be incorporated into the district plan.
And then after that, what happens to, how long does it take to,
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
what's the process to get through to completion of policy in front of council?
Well, that is it. That will be completion once the hearing is had and the provisions of there's been a decision made. That will be policy in the district plan. So that will be part of the district plan rules, and you'll be able to give effect to that. So if you wanted to do Papakainga from sort of April next year, or sort of next year. May probably, by the time a decision comes out, then it is likely that you will be able to give effect to those provisions, depending, I guess that I should say that I don't know what the outcome is going to be, so a decision has to be reached at that hearing, but yeah, that is the final stage. The hearing and the decision that comes from that is the final stage. Then it becomes adopted in the district plan. Cool. Does that answer the question?
That it doesn't have to come back to council for formal adoption?
I think it generally does, doesn't it? It does. It always comes back for final adoption, doesn't it, Nathan? It's a recommendation. Decision.
It depends on the delegation, what delegation is given to the commissioners. They can make the decision, but normally the operative date is a council decision. So that they make a decision to say, yep, we'll accept these provisions. They go into the district plan, but then the district plan, the council then adopts that as an operative date or dictates the operative date.
Thanks for that clarification here, because that's what it is.
Cool.
And so it'll be about 5 years of work, I think.
Easily.
2019? 2019, I think we started, well, with the council side of it started in 2019.
Right at the end of the council.
Certainly well before my time anyway.
and yeah. We'll look forward to that hearing occurring in April, I'm sure.
Cool. So next on the list is Waharoa. So council again is just looking at the zoning and development controls in Waharoa. This is still in its early stages. We've just we've had some community engagement, and our consultant is currently looking at the aspirations of the community and how that might be realised in district plan provisions. We've also had Warren Gumbley do a archaeological assessment, which is largely a desktop exercise, but he has completed that now. So since this, since the agenda came out, he has provided his final draft, and he has looked at a few significant sites, but I think the outcome of his report is that he is unsure of where a lot of the places are. There seems to be no specific references in literature to where certain things are. So he sort of said they're in this sort of general area, but can't sort of pinpoint anything in particular, I guess, without doing subsoil sampling. So yeah, that's where we're at with that one.
Is that likely to occur, the subsoil investigations?
I think that will be above my pay grade. That will be something for the powers that be to decide.
I've just got a question around the high productive lands. Is that having an impact on some of the zoning?
So not for Waharoa, as far as I'm aware, we're just looking at the existing urban zoning within Waharoa. So that won't be affected by the NPS HBL.
Nathan,
Cool.
can I just check, Ngāti Hau was mentioned. Is this an Ngāti Hau initiative?
What was Iwi Trust? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
As far-
think Iwi Trust would have been involved in the.
Yes, as far as I am aware, because I haven't been involved with this, we have been in partnership with Ngāti Hawa, and I can't remember the specific rep off the top of my head, but yes, because they've got certain aspirations for Waharoa as well. So I understand that we've been working together in partnership. Cool. Cool. So plan change 57. So that's a proposal to rezone approximately 41 hectares east of Matamata on Tauranga Road. So that's been notified for submissions and further submissions, and that we're currently just waiting for a hearing date in February, later in February, to decide the outcome for that one. And the same is also for plan change 58, which is again a proposal to rezone about 14 hectares of rural land to industrial on the western outskirts of Morrinsville. And again, that's been notified for submissions and further submissions, and we're just waiting for a hearing in February at the same time. So the Calcutta and the Avenue Business Park or Avenue Industrial plan change will be held. They'll be held consecutively. So one will follow the other because they, the provisions are largely the same. They're also competing potentially for a highly productive land resource. So we only have limited demand for industrial land, and they're potentially competing for that same resource. So we thought it appropriate to hear those at the same time. So yeah, late February for that one. Those two, sorry.
Can I ask a question, Nathan?
Yep.
What's been the difference between the 5-year process that the Papakainga project's gone through and these two projects, given they were launched in late 2022? I think we have done differently in the Papakainga project.
I think there's been, so with the private plan changes, there has been provisions proposed, and I guess they're relatively consistent with what, I mean, we have industrial zone now, so the provisions are relatively similar to what we have. And I guess I'm potentially making this up on the spot a little bit, but Papakainga is completely new to the district, and so I guess we've had a lot of sort of planning to get where we are to develop provisions and get something that meets its intended purpose. So I guess that would be my understanding of why it's taken. You're referring to the time, Gary. That's the time taken between the private plan changes and the council initiated one. That's what you mean. That's why that's the difference you're asking for.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's what I would say, is that I would say Papakainga is far more complex than the private plan changes, and that's why it's taken longer.
And the others are site specific, they're not district wide.
Yeah.
Or yeah. They're quite a different, well, they are in a numerical order, they are of a specific purpose and site and will contain.
Yes, yeah. Okay.
Question regarding the Calcutta one, Nathan.
Yep.
Can you just clarify the dates for those initial submissions? Because I'm sure there's a typo in there with that submissions opening, because you've got them closing before they open.
Yes.
Assume this is September, is it? Should be
so-
opening on 11th of September.
It's the second paragraph.
Sorry.
The second paragraph, yeah, page 110.
Calcutta. Yeah.
Yes.
They open.
Yeah, that should be September the 1st.
Good spotting, Andrea. Checking we've read it, don't you, Nathan?
And the other thing I have to say about the public comment plan change was we did have large scale consultation with whānau, and then you've got the government Jennifer in the middle of it, and I think kind of really got race on there. I think that is a big part to play. So it really supported things for a while.
Because we needed to engage with everybody. So that's good.
Okay, so we'll just move on to plan change 55, which is Fonterra and Waitoa. So Fonterra and Waitoa have a development concept plan, and they have a noise emission control boundary, which is sort of a circle around their activity, which they have to meet certain noise requirements at that boundary, and they're just proposing to change that boundary. And so, yeah, that's we're working with them to. There's been a few information issues, and we're just working with them to clarify proposed provisions, and that is looking to be notified early next year. But we haven't got to that stage where we're in agreement with the proposed provisions as yet, so that could change. The Hauraki Golf Forum, this is Kamesh's baby normally, so I'm not going to be able to tell you a whole heap about that, but it's a statutory body which promotes and facilitates an integrated approach to the management and protection of the Hauraki Golf. And I think one of the biggest things that has happened recently is that they used last year's surplus funds to carry out a natural capital valuations on the marine park, and that was carried out by the NZ Institute of Economic Research. And the council also recently had the forum's executive officer, Alec Rogers, present the minutes of the last forums meeting at the council meeting. And I understand that he got quite a few questions from council, and I think Adrian or James, you might be able to attest to this, that the council found it quite beneficial, him being there.
Absolutely. That was a really interesting conversation. When you read about the bioremediation using seaweed and things like that, like there's a seaweed that doesn't stick to anything, it floats, and it just gobbles up nitrate, and then they'll be able to, it's AgriSeed's trial, and they'll be able to harvest it and use it. So there's some really good things. We heard that nitrogen levels are dropping, or nitrate levels are dropping a little bit in the Gulf. So it takes time for those levels to drop down. But I know that the farming sector is definitely using less urea than they used to, so it will gradually reduce over time. But it's very interesting.
You couldn't tell me with the scallops.
Oh, yeah, we've got a scallop man here.
That was beautiful.
I think it was a really interesting comment that you made, though, Gary, about it, was around the harvesting of the shellfish, and sometimes people just overstepping their mark and their rights to take seafood. So you put it quite well, actually. Again, salts and whatnot. One question we did ask was whether because at that point in time it was when Auckland had that big wastewater spill, and we were worried about whether it was going to flow our way into our part of the Gulf. But I was sure that wasn't going to happen. That was very interesting. Thank you.
Cool. All right. National planning standards. So the national planning standards were introduced as part of the 2017 amendments to the RMA. And the first set of national planning standards were introduced in 2019, and they require district plans and regional plans to basically have the same format and structure and definitions and mapping colours and all that kind of stuff. So we're currently updating our district plan to align with the national planning standards. That is a bit of a beast. Because we just have to shuffle all the district plan around. So, and there's also going to be a few changes as a result of that, because the national planning standards introduced standard definitions. They don't work particularly well with the way our rules are written, because our rules are written for a certain definition, and so we have to change some of our rules to match the new definition. So there will be typically aligning our district plan. The public doesn't get to have a say. There's no consultation on it, because it's just basically revamping it or saying the same thing in a different way. But there will be some changes that are more than just consequential as a result of this realignment. One of those is the Manawhenua chapter. So we don't currently have a Manawhenua chapter in the district plan. We are proposing to put one in the district plan. We have talked to the Manawhenua Forum prior to this about the contents of the chapter, and we're looking to engage with individual iwi about the content of the chapter as well. So at this stage, we've only talked to Ngāti Hawa, and they have made some comments, particularly around their own information, because it's their information. They're the ones that know it, and so it's been very helpful for us to get that feedback from them. So yeah, we are still looking to engage with the other iwi within the district to about the content of that chapter in particular. Cool. The next thing is the national planning standards. So the national policy statement for highly productive land. So that was introduced in October 2022, and that has really stirred up a hornet's nest, particularly in our district, because about 66 of our district consist of highly productive land, and really the whole purpose of the national policy statement is to protect highly productive land for use in land-based primary production. And land-based primary production is farming that is reliant on the soil resource. So chicken farms, greenhouses, rural contractors, all that are not provided for on highly productive land. So the Ministry for the Environment and Ministry for the Primary Industries recently, after receiving some feedback from stakeholders, basically asked councils and iwi for some feedback on some proposed changes, and those proposed changes related to allowing for specified infrastructure on highly productive land, and the poster child for that specified infrastructure was solar farms. The national policy statement doesn't really allow for solar farms, and there's a bit of a push in that direction. So they wanted to provide a consenting pathway for that type of activity. They also were wondering whether it was appropriate to provide a consenting pathway for intensive indoor primary production like chicken farms and piggeries and that kind of thing, and greenhouses on highly productive land. So the council has made a submission on those proposed changes. We thought it was appropriate to have a consenting pathway for both specified infrastructure and intensive indoor primary production and greenhouses on highly productive land. Just from our perspective, from the district's perspective, there's very few alternatives for any of those activities off highly productive land. So yeah, that's that one. And the national policy framework. So the government is obviously undertaking a resource management reform. They are looking to repeal the RMA and replace it with 3 pieces of legislation, that being the Natural and Built Environment Act, the Spatial Planning Act, and the Climate Adaptation Act. The first 2 have been given royal assent and currently in effect, but the Climate Adaptation Act will come later. So there, as part of this sort of reform, there's going to be a new resource management framework. So that will have planning documents which include regional spatial strategies, natural and built environment plans, which will be similar to district plans and regional plans, and a national planning framework where all the I think all your national policy statements and national environment standards that currently exist, that's where they will sit. So they've recently released a draft national planning framework for consultation, and the consultation period for that closes on 13th of December. We are not going to make a submission on that. It will come out for public notification or public consultation in April next year, I believe. So we will look to make a submission at that time if we make a submission. And the last thing on the list was the proposed national policy statement for natural hazard decision making. So the Ministry for the Environment recently released a draft of this, and its purpose is to provide direction for decision makers in their consideration of natural hazard risks in planning decisions. So that was out for public consultation from the 18th of September till the 20th of November. We did not submit on that national policy statement. Cool. Any questions?
Thank you, Nathan. Any questions of Nathan? If not, someone move the report we received, please. Hinnerang? Gary? Hinnerang? Those in favour say aye. Aye.
Cool.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you. Cheers. We'll see you later.
Right, well, now, this is the 8.2, the civil defence of the regional council. I see, it's right here. Line up perfectly, right up.
Where would you like?
Oh, you'd like to go podium, please.
Kia ora, Lauren and I will tag team for this item. No Denmark e Wales aho, e tupu aku ake oe o tu tahi e rotoro e Timaru, ke whaangaroa aho e noho ana. Ko Alfred Bang, toko papa, ko Gwyneth Jones, toko mama, ko Pip Edwards, toko o wahine, ko Mark Bang, Manawhenua. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
I'm very early in my te reo journey, and I'm very nervous, so forgive me and I'll introduce myself in English today. My people are from Ireland, it's where I'm most from. I grew up in the Bay of Plenty and I now reside in Tauranga, but I'm moving to Muslims next year. My father is Dave Malloy and my mother is Miriam Miller, and my partner's Simon Fenton, and I'm Lauren Malloy. So,
We'll take the report as read. I guess the key point I wanted to bring out is the decisions of the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group in the Waikato to and the desire to partner with Māori in the emergency management system. A lot of that came from our experience, our joint experience through COVID-19 response. And in the report, you'll see, and I've got a bit of copy here to hand around to the forum, is the CDM Māori framework, and I'll talk about the origins of this in just a moment. The Civil Defence Emergency Management Act doesn't provide for Māori in the emergency management system as it stands right now. There is a bill that was introduced to Parliament and it had its first readings prior to the change of government. And that new emergency management bill does specifically provide for Māori in the emergency management system all throughout, from governance right through to operations, is a partnership approach on the principles of security which and the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group in Waikato supported that approach. And in fact, that approach supports the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group's decisions that they took in May 2021. So we're, Lauren and I have really come to the forum to ask for your advice and any protocol that you can support us with in respect of progressing the partnership with Māori in the emergency management system in the Matamata-Piako District Council area. And the framework that you have in front of you was gifted to the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group by Te Porta Thompson, helped develop it with the Tainui Waka Alliance chief executives, and it was an attempt to help give us a framework to understand how Māori might engage in the emergency management system. That is the what, and the how is up to the local marae, iwi, Māori communities to decide how best to be represented and engaged and partnered in the emergency management system. And that's what we'd like, some direction and some support for it all if it's available, for how to make those steps forward. It's fair to say that we're just putting our foot on the first rung of the ladder to move forward. Yeah, that guidance would be invaluable. How could we get a more formalised representation of the Māori response in an emergency operations centre, so that when something kicks off, when an emergency occurs, the council establishes an emergency operations centre to coordinate across a wide range of organisations, from government to non-government organisations. And we know that Māori respond to emergencies, and we want to be joining hands in that response. So the most effectively is if you could have Māori representatives in the emergency operations centre, enabling those connections to be strong and real. That's kind of the guidance that we're seeking, really, is how to start those conversations for the Matamata-Piako area. Lauren, do you want to tell us what you've been doing and what you've started in terms of the local welfare committee? And
so at present, what's consistent across the Waikato group is that we have local welfare committees that are made up of organisations and representatives from the local area. Currently, Matamata-Piako sits on an Eastern Waikato Local Welfare Committee, which encompasses Thames Coromandel and the Hauraki District Council and us. The representation for Manawhenua on that local welfare committee is quite minimal due to the boundaries and in which the organisations sort of cover that belong to more that Thames Coromandel Hauraki district. So when I came into the role, it started this year and last year, there is an identified a need for more representation for our communities on our own local welfare committee. So my plan is with Tamata's support as well as Tuatahi's on board as well, which is wonderful. We're looking to stand up our own local welfare committee just for Matamata-Piako. We're still keeping our foot in the door for the Eastern Waikato Thames Coromandel to take care of mainly Te Araha area, but we're looking to, I guess, generate membership on our local community here. We've been very fortunate. We've had Tuatahi at the start of the year opened for the community, which was very, very much appreciated. So I guess we just like to explore opportunities moving forward to enhance our ability to respond to the community in an emergency.
And part of the other thing we are is supporting marae in particular to with that readiness and response activity. So if marae, we know marae will look after their community, and so how can we have a korero with marae to support them to be ready to do that and engage with them, you know, and take a multi-agency approach. Like if we brought Fens and St John's along with Lauren here and sat down with the marae committee just to understand, you know, what it is in terms of their readiness to look after their whānau, and any kind of opportunities there are to strengthen that resilience. Yeah. So we're happy to, we've done enough talking. We're happy to do some listening.
Thank you. Have we any questions of Mark?
I suppose you were asking how to go about talking to the community about marae being there. I suppose the first subject is actually telling people there is a marae. For us as Tui Part, it was an emergency place to go to, but people didn't know, and we're on a bridge, so if people on our side could come there, but the others on the other side couldn't. But I think it was more the awareness of not knowing that the marae sits down there, which is capable of holding up to 30 or 40 people, you know, fully functional kitchen. The other problem that we found is if the power went out for us, what do we then do? Because, you know, we've gone from an old fire to heat the water and stuff like that to going to civilization, and then power gets cut and we're literally. So where does the civil defence work with marae committee and whānau hapu hapori to supply that some of those needed stuff for us? Does the marae or the people supply it to them, or is there a balance where it comes half and half where we try and work together, so then when something occurs, we're not trying to go into our own, you know, rooms trying to find stuff and do that. But that's what whānau do, right? We just go in and we switch off and we just do what we have to do. But yeah, it's more the awareness that we are there to support the community. We're not a strange place. We're not anything that's going to be scary. But at the end of the day, when you need shelter, you know, and a place to go to, you know, we need to drive that we are like the Silkfern Event Centre. We are like that. You know, and we open all hours, you know, and we'll just be there waiting for people to come in. And that's all I did. I just stayed up and waited for phone calls. And it was only me just sitting there waiting. But even though we didn't have people turn up, but there was pie ready. So as soon as they'd come in, it would be there. So I think it was more for the fact that more information prior, like always through advertising and whatever, is that marae, these maraes are the addresses where they are, who to contact, and as you say, meeting with with the committee, so then you can actually have the contact numbers and backup numbers of people that are not there. So then it's all listed. For me, that's what I think we need to do to be more aware for the public. Is that we are there, but don't tell everyone when it's too late, because Ngāti Te Reti don't work like that. So we have to get it out now, so push all that information out. And then I think then it comes to time, if they're not going to be worried about coming back again. And we just with the 5 a day and stuff like that. Because even then, people just jump in and then they do the things, but they don't know who the marae is. So and that's probably your first thing too, is knowing who your marae are.
Sure. We don't want to assume that every marae will open their doors to every person, and that's for a conversation for to understand. So your kōrero makes it open to the wider community, perhaps. Another marae may not choose to take that approach, and that's really important for the emergency management system to understand. Is those marae who engage in the system to open their doors more widely. Yes, how do we have that kōrero with the marae committee to understand what does that mean, and what does that mean in terms of resourcing, and what does it mean in terms of informing the community that's the decision that the marae committee have made. And also working with those marae who choose not to open, who choose to respond only to their whānau and their hapu, and not more broadly, and that's fine too. But understanding where those marae are, and so we kind of, from an emergency management system, understand how each entity is playing. So and that's, so how do we do that? How do we get those conversations rolling?
I suppose at the moment, like through the marae that are around in Pohauraki, there is pretty much all the ones in Pairo are closed because they're getting renovated. So there's only like, I think it's Waituki, that's the only one between them, Pairo and us, are open. So you have to also, I suppose, engage more on like making sure that you're still involvement with them, because if you're using any one of them and you find out that they're closed and there's an emergency, then what the plan is then. So I think it's just always just being, I suppose, being quite strong and going in there and saying, hey, we do want to work with those who we're working with. Who else do we talk to if this is happening? Then if you've only got 2 marae to select from, you've only got 2 marae. So it's just knowing, from on this side, and then you've got anywhere from the other marae that you go to. I'm just saying for Hauraki and stuff like that, if they're closed, where do you go from? So you just gotta know who talking with and stuff like that.
Knock on the door and
or you've got if you've got the information that who you deal with then they can always tell you what's going on too. So it's always good to get on the phone call.
I think for us, sorry Andrew, I think for us we had during the COVID time, I think we had really good relationship with civil defence. In terms of, I know that our there were food provided, and they actually communicated with our iwi. So I think for me that relationship has already, I think, just can continue. Our marae is one of them, like that. And what you need to do now is just, keep that going and grow it up. Andrea?
a total forward to what I'm saying. And as a communication tree, you've got to make sure you know who to talk to in the middle of an emergency, and that person needs to know that they will be the one that's being talked to, or those people, because you want a bit of redundancy in that system, because people's individual situations in the middle of disasters, you don't know, you don't know who's going to be in a position to be working with you. But the other thing is, like, just what was being pointed out about Marae resilience in terms of being self-sufficient for power, and for at least for cooking, I think, and hot water obviously would be great too. But that sort of Marae resilience is really important. One of the things that Rokau is doing is looking at a Marae resilience project to really go through each marae, find out, well, what does the marae need for itself, people who get that marae, but also for how could they then offer are they going to be in a position to offer any care and support for people long whānau? And often they will. I mean, you just have to look at what happened on the East Coast with marae. Marae were the ones who they had the mattresses, and they knew, they were able to look after people in some really extreme conditions. And I think that's kind of like, sports centres are awesome, but they don't have the cooking facilities. They don't, there's not necessarily the full. Do they have all the mattresses for people to sleep on? No, they probably don't need that either. So there is some real benefit in making sure that sure I like people in a position to be assistance. And I think that COVID taught us big lessons, which I was saying, and formed some relationships. I wasn't at Brocover at the stage when COVID first did, but I know their environment team. We're taking off everything else, and we're fully for 3 months on COVID. And we had someone on the team who was a GIS expert, and they were working on some of the the mapping things. We had the tribal register sitting at the iwi, so we know we can probably people might be, and just have that as a bit of a resource for identifying who might be needing assistance. Our iwi has quite a strong sort of health and social services arm as well, so they've got a pretty good handle on that being part of the solution for knowing who's very vulnerable, like older people who might be. Yeah, we were out doing food packages, food parcels for people pretty much immediately, just to make sure people. So there's a lot of capacity there with iwi, and I think a lot of knowledge about who's and what they might need that needs to be tapped. So I think it's very important to do that. So those are probably work out who holds some of that information that might be of use at that time, and what services might they be able to provide, get that communication network, the whole heap of redundancies in place, work out where some of those refuges might be with marae, and how can you make sure that they're not going to have like a fatal flaw at the time, like no power, can't do it. So I think, or rely upon landline phones or whatever the things that might go down, and get that handled beforehand, so you
So could we perhaps start those conversations via the forum members as the first point of contact for some of that kōrero? Not Tuatahi with his relationships and contacts as well. And I don't want to step on your toes, Tuatahi. I acknowledge your expertise, but so maybe via the forum members to start that kōrero with Raukawa in your case, and perhaps be engaged in some of those conversations around marae resilience and points of contact for
you take a bit of a two-pronged approach, like with the iwi, the iwi will be holding certain information, and then Manawhenua, the two Raukawa marae that would be in a position to be providing the sort of things we're talking about. So talking to Leo to be put in touch with people to go find out and have those individual conversations with them, I would be sensible, but I'm totally open to Harold.
I think, again, coming from the marae, you've got to know what's around your marae, what danger there is. And for us, it's about the environment, the wind. The civil defence, I'm going to tell you, we're never there. I hate to play you here now, but the marae has always been support of the community. Well, in Tipoi, we have a community there, and Anne Dalton, she takes care of that. But as a marae, we were always there for the people. And we worry a lot about the environment. Things happening down there, but we still keep going. Like something happened in Tauranga, and like our farmers, our marae, people who's in trouble, and we want to close it down. But then it becomes a situation. Because it can only do so much. Shelter them, speaking to. Yeah. When our power goes on, we get energy. And we get sick. These are more power. As far as doctors and whatever, I think the local again, because you didn't have to ask. They were at our marae supplying us with all the medical stuff, all the food. And I think that's what you sort of people find. This. But you do think about East Coast, how they got hit really hard, but then you've got to look around what's around there. You know, they got flooded out. So it's just unbelievable what happened. And it started from the hills. So, you know, all that. All hits towns.
We'd be fine. I think for Ngāti Handling, it'd be fine just to come through the PSGE and then we'll farm it out to the marae, just the message to say, hey, this is something you want to pursue. Yeah, that's fine.
Last question, like obviously there's a strategic view, and because civil defence emergencies affect 3, you know, the district is quite spread out and it's close, but it's weather events can be totally different, so it's often quite isolated, isn't it, as to where. So I guess is it a case of understanding where marae are placed and what their strategic advantage might be, like you said, June, about being on that side of the river. If the bridge is out, that becomes a te araha. And it's just understanding where some of the streets might lie, and that's where some of the conversations around, like you said, the two-pronged approach, is there's a strategic opportunity, but there's also a resilience. What potential is there resilience-wise to support that opportunity? And there's quite a big piece of work there, eh?
There are 2 levels. Yes. So the CDM group covers all of the Waikato. So from Taupo through to the Bombay Hills. It's a massive area, and there are 11 councils there. So that strategic approach that you mentioned is underway. It's slow going. It's my manager, the group manager, trying to, in the first instance, korero with the Tainui Waka Alliance and the chairs of the iwi. But if we wait for that to happen, we could be waiting a long time. So we're here today to talk about what can we do at the local level.
Yeah. Because this is the thing, there's a lot of focus on.
Yes.
I'd have to say.
Yes.
This is our catchment.
Yes. What are our problems? What are our opportunities? How can we work and partner together here? Yeah.
One of the pieces we've done at Matamata is to do an assessment of opportunities in our space. Because 2 rivers outside of us, potential flooding, the notion of earthquakes. For us in Matamata, the nature risk of that critical part across the road. So, how do we prepare for any sort of emergency should those sort of things our district then? Sadly, we're in the wrong place if that emergency occurs, because we're right on the main course. So, it's doing that sort of analysis and how you build that sort of discussion in a community to be able to think that sort of stuff through. And then to be prepared. So, we're were established as facilities, but are we prepared to plug in a generator if we need to? Do we have the electrical capability and all that sort of stuff? We can survive for a certain period of time, but then 80 hours later, we're definitely going to need a generator. We're going to be looking after anyone. And then, then everything else is there. That's one of the positives to support communities environment.
The part of the work that I'm doing in the next out to mid next year and beyond. Lifestyle. It's operational planning and being asked to look at 3 priority hazards, or through what is local, what's specific. And one of the ones that I've discussed with Mark that I want to look into is that industrial potential hazards. And this isn't, if you plan in isolation, you plan to fail. So I don't want to do it on my own. I want to engage with the guy that it impacted. I want to sit down with friends and understand what they know about. So that's one of the hazards that we're going to focus on, is that. And then we'll look at flooding probably as well for Matamata-Piako, because that's quite significant. And then potentially we're going to do the earthquake one as well. I think there's absolutely a need to do that planning ahead of time and to think about the impacts that we might have, so we can have some contingency options in place. But I'd like to do that alongside other people who have the local knowledge and know where those impacts are likely to be felt the most. So.
Just a question, probably for us as councillors. Places like Tauhei Marae are right on our boundary, and Waiti is just up the road. Mm-hmm. How do we plan to look after Waiti but not Tauhei? How do we think that sort of stuff through?
Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, because just because there's a boundary line doesn't stop us from. It's yeah.
And so Hamilton City have identified some pauarahi to be in their emergency operations centre, and they've provided them with some training. But we acknowledge that those people come from marae who are outside of the Hamilton City area, but they have a crossover. So yeah, we totally understand that a district boundary, Matamata-Piako boundary, that it's just a line on a map. So we need to put it all with multiple people outside of that area to make sure we're covering all the bases. Yeah.
I know at a practical level that many of the marae that I associate with can't even get a monthly meeting because everybody's so busy. I guess so. I really don't know the answer to how you would engage with a subject that's not top of the list. But
is it a one-on-one if there was an opportunity for Lauren and Mark to be able to meet with a member from each marae that might have some that they can at least start a conversation with, and because we've got to start somewhere, so we've got to start with a conversation. So is it, because rather than try and pull everybody together, I think you have to work individually, right? So that's just a case of perhaps starting here with some contact names that you can make an approach to, maybe.
And if Rakawa have a program of doing this already, it makes sense to speak to Rakawa and to dovetail in with activity that's already underway. Yeah.
What if you created a survey for us to do? What are your concerns? What's happened at your marae in the past? What things have gone right, wrong, and just kind of collect that information first before going in, and then it cuts a lot of the time out. Just so you've got a foundation to work from, because we will all be different, really different. Like I'd honestly say Tiohaki's in one of those places where you wouldn't go there in a weather emergency place to go to.
We want to go there on a sunny day.
But things that even through the COVID response, people could tell you what went wrong and what went right there. And so there's a base to start from anyway.
We were always in touch with Lisa Gardner, who's our general manager, from our Trust, and she was on a committee with the Hauraki people.
Yes, on the regional leadership group.
Speak about road condition, bridges down, weather,
Yes.
needing to get food packs and all that kind of stuff. And so 3 of us got those messages. Pass them around. So, yeah, that's how we sort of kept it. Yeah, but we didn't open our marae. We didn't have a need. There was no flooding, just probably a storm, the trees blowing over there.
I mentioned a question in a survey saying, if this was to happen, do you know who you would call? No. Who would be your people? Did that come?
So we have Facebook pages, like we've got a 5K.
That sound like a good idea?
Yes.
Just to kick it off?
Yeah.
Well, this is what the relationship with Manawhenua through. Yes, Lisa Gardner. And then we had Sonny Cardinal, was up in the Waikato main office. He was looking up to relay to Lisa. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like, just rather than information received that that's a really good suggestion. I think will be. Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. Can I move the information being received, please? Leo, seconder, I get you all those in favour, say aye. Contrary carried. Thank you. 8.3, okay.
Tēnā tā te whare. Tēnei te mihi tuatai ki tō tātene pāwhaka wairua te whuai tō tātene mihuinga i tēnei wā. Tēnā rawa atu ki koe te matua. Tō tātene Manawhenua, te tiamana, koutou te Manawhenua konei. Ki te tuanei o tēnei o kaupapa, ka miharo ka pai. Thank you, everybody. Yes, I'll take this report as information to be received. This is in relation to the iwi aspirations and planning for upcoming workshop with council set in mid-March. It's more of an item for discussion for the forum, so I'm happy to open it up to any comments, questions that whānau may have, but something to the information I do have is that we have a facilitator that is showing some interest and would like to take the hui in March on board, and is on the queue and has worked alongside Waipa and other regional council projects and local government projects in the past. But thank you.
Can I just clarify again for Manawhenua, the work that we have?
Yes, the decision from council was to have in regards to the aspiration document being presented in August, was to have a sit down with Manawhenua, discuss the aspirations that was presented to council in August, and for the aspiration vision for the district, and just to have a kōrero around what that might look like. The overarching umbrella to that week.
I'm not quite sure. Councillor Hill wants to come back. and workshop of Manawhenua.
Council going to be in there with us?
Yes, correct.
So what was given is on the EBS aspiration.
I don't understand the question. Fine.
I just thought that the EBS aspiration paper that was presented to council. And now they're suggesting to come back to sit on it.
That was the cordial back email.
Yes. I think holistically it's more about what the aspiration vision for the district will mean for everybody involved. So Manawhenua and council, if I'm correct in thinking that way. Yes.
Because I think in that hui they said it's not a no, let's go back and look at it.
Yeah.
Your questions, are we okay with doing it?
It was more just to give an update
Oh,
on,
yeah.
on where we're heading. And if anybody has any questions.
Will she facilitate the whole thing? Okay.
Yeah.
How, because I remember that day very clearly, the three of us here, we turned up to speak and it was actually quite, some comments that made it quite degrading and quite confronting. And so I would hope that this facilitator is prepared to protect everyone, keep everyone safe in that space, because I'd be struggling to kind of feel comfortable about sitting around the table with some of those council members, even though I'm happy to find a way forward. But it's not a nice place to be.
She is aware of the context and would like to set up some pre-meetings before the actual date in March, so that people are comfortable with what's being proposed as a discussion point on that day. With anybody who would like to attend those pre-meetings. We have somewhat blocked in the location as well, being the Silver Ferns Event Centre in Taupaha. Our council have a few we have our timeframes that we are trying to meet as well under the LTP, and there may be a council workshop prior to discuss a few of those deadlines. So I think those facilities would be appropriate to house anybody that would like to attend. That's the latest information I have. I think the request will be sent out to not just yourselves, but also your organisations as well. Your respective chairs, general managers, who would like to attend for that discussion.
Where did that person come from?
Hello? Hello?
Just so you know.
Rich Chief.
Rich.
Yep.
She's quite an experienced facilitator. She's also done facilitation for things like the Hauraki Golf Forum. So she's quite experienced in terms of dealing with, a range of views and things like that. And Tahi and I have also talked about having a sort of a joint chairmanship on the day as well, just to make things, keep things comfortable for everybody that could attend it.
Those pre-meetings, are they with us and with council? Because
you can have it as however you wish.
Where, what? I think the whole council.
They can be however you wish those meetings to go.
These are like socialising meetings, eh?
The whole council needs to be there because it's my understanding that. Our understanding. I'm sorry, I'm just, this is how we do.
But it's fine. Whatever direction I receive from you, I'm happy to take that on board and also liaise with the facilitator to have those discussions maybe prior to the March. But it's still all day, the rest of the day will be open from.
Yeah, we have a configuration on the LTP consultation document like that, because so we're figuring in the chat area as your kind of probably have to be going to be a sales team and then go sort of very flourish.
Have you got a date? March
30.
I suggest that we take it to Monday, but I suspect it's not going to be a popular suggestion. Because wouldn't it be great to talk about Manawhenua aspirations on our webinar?
Believe my right and come to start.
Tuck it in there.
As an option.
As an
option. I'll take that into consideration.
Maybe if they're poor.
As an option to be.
Yeah. But exciting.
We maybe have like a partner we put together so we can brief chairs and CEOs and various others who haven't been involved in this from the start, just so they can figure out whether they wish to attend.
I will look to send that out prior to Christmas.
I wonder, Adrian, is this something that council will be expecting? This type of thing?
Question.
My sense was that it's probably not.
As in going to a marae or as a workshop?
As in terms of having discussing just sort of round tables.
I don't know whether we're overthinking it or whether we're, like everybody's overthinking it. Like, is it, I think what it comes down to is just words. It's not that that we're opposed to it. I think there's just a few words and it just we need to build an understanding around the expectation with just within it's not, this is about relationship and how we can move forward with it. And there was only a couple of words really at the end of the day, was the feeling that I got. And just the expectation on some place. Don't overthink it. I think we'll be okay. Yeah. We'll be okay. It's building a relationship. Because I guess at the end of the day, it was handed to council and
No,
So, I think we'll.
Yeah, and in support of that, there were a couple of words that we probably could have maybe thought through a little bit differently.
I think that.
And presented a little bit differently so that I guess landed a little bit softer.
If I can use the
that's
word the word adhere was the one that we struggled with, because if you don't know what you adhere or how you're going to adhere to it and what is the cost of adhering to it, and we've got budget constraints, and I think we just wanted, the view I got was that we just needed to understand and build that understanding of the expectation, how we could actually adhere. And that was probably we struggled with. if I could be really honest.
Would you be comfortable coming to the marae?
I would be, but I guess it's time constraints and how we work it in with our schedule is the thing I'd be looking to direction. I honestly, I appreciate being invited to marae. I think that's all part of the relationship. But you know, it doesn't. I don't think it's vital for this one. If it ties in with when council's meeting and everything, because I don't see it taking a day. I actually do think that it's just an understanding. I think it's just a, like you said, understand, a lack of understanding, and how we can together. And it's whether it here was the right word to use for us to take and bring on board those inspirations.
And how,
It is, and it's very like, you know, like, and that's probably the feeling, if I'm being really honest, and saying it from my heart to you, is, you know, it's, we have to work towards this. We can't accept that it's in place now. It's working together and for us to deal with a history in some sense. I just want to find a way forward.
There's a real sense to me of like some of the councillors don't think of Manawhenua as part of the constituency within the district. It's like it's almost like a separate thing, and that is like something that I think needs to be overcome.
I mean, there was some aspect that Māori are a lobby group just like everybody else. And Māori are a lobby group just like everybody else. That's the basis.
I think we can move forward then.
Yeah. So I think we've expressed some really beautiful sentiments in the aspirations. I think what we just need to try and do on the day is just to help unpack what they mean for us, how we moving, how strong can we value each of those aspirations, and then have some discussions about what might it look like in practice. So, yeah, yeah. But when we go to the vocal form meeting.
Kōrero anō? No.
For some clarity, put an information package together so that you can send it to respective organisations, general managers and chairs for if they would like to attend the March week.
Okay. I'll move this report. Someone second it, please. Chair, all those in favour say aye. Contrary carried. Thank you. 8.4 is a report to be taken and read. Update. The purpose of this report is to provide an update to the Manawhenua form on the work program as confirmed.
I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. Second, no. All those in favour say aye. Contrary carried. To Manawhenua Forum work program also to be taken as read. And the purpose of this is to report is to set the forum work program for the 2024 calendar year.
We must, we can see with John September, we were away at the with skipping the holidays. And we suggested that we avoid school holidays because of
Thank you. Someone move?
Can I just check? So we're gonna follow up with area management plans some stage up.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Next play, is that in the next year?
Start it when we can start it, I think, Kerry. I think that'll be I don't have a date as to when. I think it was whatever's on Tuatahi's work schedule. And that's where Erin, I think, MOUs. Yeah. Yep. Is that what you mean? With the iwi? Yeah.
So, Tuatahi, Tuatahi's, spoken to the other iwi around it, and they say that we're not at the moment, so things that we came up with that, so we obviously on the whole. But the one of the everybody then to that, and that's definitely not as well as friends and but I just wanted to clarify which one you're interested in.
I just thought we might be able to start up on our work plan, just get some feedback on how they progress. As in my
Question for all? Nope, someone new. Rachel, second, June for the paper, say aye. And we carry. Now we have this other matter that, yep, ready.
I can leave that if you like. So I got an email today. It was only yesterday, and I said to Debbie, well, we better get this on the agenda for today. Okay. So obviously I've been asked to give an expression of interest for next year's 2-year program, which I'm happy to do, and I'm seeking that you are supportive of me doing that. And just to give you a heads up that we're really ready to provide some nominations or select a person that you would feel would benefit from the program next year. It's a hui in March. It's on the first one in March.
How much time do you actually spend with them?
What's the age?
18 to 25.
Yeah.
I haven't actually been involved in it, so I haven't.
It's a new one.
Yeah, it's a new one for me. And of course, COVID checked it in the last few years. Previously, there were we've done several. I think there's been 3 or 4.
Just yesterday.
Yeah, Arlene and Willie, and then Wilson. Yeah, so there's been a few, but COVID sort of stopped it from progressing, and of course then I got elected last year and missed the vote. So I'm keen to just this meeting today. So
we will enter.
I will put my expression of interest in and seek nominations from Manawhenua for now you've done it.
What do you want for today?
Let's just start. The motion is
recommendation here to state the information of the forum confirm its interest to participate in the 2-year 2024 program and provides nominations of Rototai Māori to the mayor. What's that? Someone move?
Yes, so which is great if you can.
Rangi Chong, seconder. Hina Rangi, all those in favour say aye. Okay,
Jen, it's great. It's very timely.
Do you just want, when do you need names by then? And can they apply, or what do you?
It's, well, I need to follow whatever process council's done in the past.
Yeah.
I am unfamiliar, I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with the process. Because it's, as a councillor, it was just, there was a person that was to a program, so one person. So yeah, I just need to get some information out of you around that process and select a person. I guess the thing is, are you happy for me to select a person, or did you have Manawhenua have input in selecting the person? I think so. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't see it for me. I'd rather see that the forum selected a suitable candidate.
We usually go to the college or something.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, I look forward to perhaps us getting together perhaps in February to we could set a, like if it's March, if we could set it for mid-February maybe, and then someone don't know how quickly I'll follow up on the information to you.
Yes, thank you.
Great, awesome, thank you.
All right, that brings us to a close. In a meeting in the Taupapa, there's the Tamai, the Tata Hui. Mai te tima tango tēnei tau, and I don't get tahana te hui. Noho ki te taha o te kaunirana. Nei me ana kia tātou. I thank everybody. Obviously, these meetings have increased by 2 per year. So it just gives us a bit more contact with our council. Thank you everybody for your input, and wishing everybody a safe and happy Merry Christmas. At this point, I'd like Leo, can you close us up, please?
Nō tātou, e hono rei kororia ki te atua, e mangaronga ki te whenua, e whakauru pā ki ngā tangata kātou, hanga e te atua he nākauhau ki roto ki tēnā o mātou. Whakatoia te wairua toku, e āwhi, e tohotu, i a mātou, e āko hoki, e nāku i roto tēnu. Ahi, aki, āmen.
Thank you.